Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki Fraser and Rachel Dean, Certified Clinical Aromatherapists. We are excited to have you here on today's episode where you know that you'll get the best essential oil scoop.
This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. If you want to learn more about how to become a clinical aromatherapist, check out the courses at www.schoolofessentria.com. Welcome to this week's episode of Vetiver Vibes. Nikki Fraser here with Robin Kessler. Welcome.
Thank you.
Robin is a certified professional and trained clinical aromatherapist in central New Jersey. She has learned the chemistry of how the individual components of the essential oils may help your body to repair itself both physically and emotionally. Robin's specialty is working with those in hospice and also using frankincense species. Being the queen of frankincense, we had Robin on for episode number 16, the many types and benefits of frankincense and how to use them. But in today's episode, we are going to talk about aromatherapy and how it can support people in palliative and hospice care. Welcome to the podcast again.
Thank you.
Always happy to have repeat people on. And like I mentioned, we talked to you quite lengthy last time about frankincense, the many different kinds of frankincense. You've actually done a mini course for us also on frankincense and how, they're not all the same. And as much as you are the queen of frankincense, you also work with hospice. A lot of people who are in hospice, palliative care, end of life, and I'm assuming with that, and we'll get into that, some maybe how to support some loved ones with people there and all of that, which we will dive into. But before we dive into that, we always like to ask our guest, what is your favorite essential oil? And I'm going to guess what it is, but I'll let you answer.
Guess what? You're not going to guess what it is.
Oh, are you going to surprise me?
Yeah, an essential oil is different than with a resin.
That's true.
So my favorite, there are two favorites. One I'm highly allergic to, but it works fabulous on different people. My husband swears by it, but I have to wear gloves. Figures the one you're allergic to is the one that's the best. And the other one I also like. So the one that I'm allergic to that is wonderful is Plai.
Okay.
And it's got a beautiful smell, and it's excellent for any type of heavy duty inflammation. When you're really, really in pain, it's wonderful. It really is. Too bad I'm allergic to it. But it is, I use it for a lot of different people, and I actually put it in the infusions when we get into boswellic acid in that, so it becomes even stronger. So if you broke your leg or you cracked your hand, something where you really did a lot of damage, this is an instant cure. It takes away the pain almost immediately.
I'm going to have to look into that one. I've never tried that one.
It's Plai.
Perfect.
So I don't remember what country it comes from. It's not from the United States. So, and the other one is Copaiba.
Copaiba. Yeah,
There are
Copaiba.
two types. There's the essential oil and there's the ole resin.
Mm-hmm.
So the ole resin is the sap that comes from the tree, and they don't make it into an essential oil. They basically don't allow it to harden, and they put it immediately into a bottle, and it stays liquid. Mm-hmm. It's more of a syrupy type. But then if they allow it to harden like regular resin, then they will distill it and make it into an essential oil. I happen to like the ole resin better. I find it's a little stronger. You use less. Even though the essential oil is nice, I tend to go with and I accidentally got it. I didn't realize that I had gotten it because I got it from a company and I thought it was the essential oil until I read it and saw that it said ole resin on it. And I
That's a
said,
nice
oh,
bonus surprise when
I
you.
I turned the bottle over. I turned the bottle over and I'm waiting for it to come out because the central oil pulls out fast and the thing is not pouring out. And then I looked at the bottle and said, wait a minute, something's wrong.
Yeah,
And realized that wasn't
you
the
got that.
essential oil.
Yeah.
But I've had used both and I just happen to like that better.
Sometimes the mistakes or oopses turn out to be, blessings in disguise of you discover
Correct.
something that you actually like. So that's an awesome story. Thank you.
Yeah, that I happen to really like it. I use it a lot. It's very similar to CBD. It
Hmm.
has some of the constituents in it that CBD has.
Nice.
So if you can't have CBD in your country, this is an alternative nice try.
Nice, nice.
So, because it does have a couple of the chemicals in it that CBD does have.
Perfect.
So you're getting, the benefits without the drug.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we are going to be talking about hospice care, and I'd love to know, how did you get into working with aromatherapy and hospice care?
I've always liked to volunteer for those that were sick. When my kids were little, I used to volunteer in nursing homes all the time. So I liked working with people. Back then, I didn't even know from aromatherapy, but uh, but it was more on talking to the patient,
Hmm.
reading to the patient, and I really enjoyed it. When I got into aromatherapy, I realized, well, guess what? I can use a lot of the essential oils. This is before I even got into frankincense, but I could use a lot of the essential oils to help different patients. And I found a company that was looking for an aromatherapist. And when I went to their office for the interview, they were using a multi-level marketing company. And they put all the oils out, and I said, no, 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 you can't use those. And they
Hmm.
said, why? I said, because it develops a very big liability. How do you know the people are not allergic to it? How do you know that some of these oils cannot be used with certain medications? And for all you know, you could be making them sicker and you don't even realize it's coming from the essential oils.
Yeah. And usually that population has a lot of medications that they are on. So it's, extra important
Right.
to be
It's
cautious.
extra important. And since they didn't know, they were relying on the multi-level marketing rep who knew nothing and
Yeah.
was not certified. Uh, they got very nervous. And everybody that they interviewed were not certified aromatherapists.
Hmm.
So I said, I don't care who you use, whether you use me or not, but you need to be safe.
Yeah.
And that's how we got to me.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a great
And
story. And it is that safety is important.
I've been with them for about 6 years.
Nice. That's awesome. And so we talk a lot. You meant we mentioned that we're going to talk about hospice care. So what's the difference though between like palliative care, hospice care, long-term care? I find a lot of them are kind of interchangeable. People use them interchangeably, but they are actually different. Could you kind of
Right.
explain the
Hos-
differences?
yes. Hospice care are those that are terminally ill
Mhm.
and cannot help themselves at all. They need help. They need medication. They can't administer it themselves, or they're not capable of administrating it themselves. And they bring in nurses to take care of them, and it's round the clock. So they could be in a nursing home, but it's an extra step,
Mhm.
so they're there from when the person is about to die, and they make sure that the patient is very comfortable.
Nice.
So that's hospice.
Mhm.
The palliative care is more for those that can still take care of themselves, but they need extra care. very
Okay.
similar to a caregiver.
Mhm.
So somebody will come in and do their laundry, will do their everything they can't physically do,
Yeah.
and also help them make sure that they take their medications, will also make sure that they're getting physical therapy, but they can't be on their own.
Mhm.
So they really need the extra help.
Mhm.
Long-term care is basically the same as palliative. It's basically the same thing. And at long-term, usually with hospice, it's not long.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, the person can die within days. The person can die within weeks. Normally, they're in hospice no more than 3 months. If they find that for some miracle something
Bouncing
happens
back.
and they're bouncing back, then they go into palliative care
Yeah.
until
Mhm.
it worsens, and then they have to come back into hospice again.
Yeah. And it really sounds like hospice is there so that they can pass with grace and dignity and people around them so that,
Yes,
they
yes.
aren't by themselves, which is really, really
Yeah,
nice.
as long as you go to a good hospice, there are bad ones. I've been to bad ones where I refused to treat the patient because they really were not taking care of them correctly. So I didn't want to be associated with them at all.
Yeah. And
So
unfortunately, you see that in palliative care, long-term care, hospital, like you see
nursing
that with
homes,
all
see that
kind,
all.
yeah, unfortunately.
So my reputation was important, and I they refused to listen to me, and I saw the care was horrible,
Mm,
and I
disappointing.
reported them. I actually reported them to the hospice organization, and because they weren't taking care of the patients, never mind
Yeah.
aromatherapy, they
Yeah, you
weren't
need
taking
basic needs met first before
right
any
before you
any
could.
complementary care that's going in with it. So when you are working with people in hospice care, how are you working? How are you using your aromatherapy in the hospice care
Okay,
centers with clients?
first I have access to all their medical records. I had to take a course through the hospice. I had to learn how to use their equipment,
Mhm.
what to do in an emergency. What if the person faints on me? What
Mm,
to do in an emergency? Who to call? How to, they have fire drills. I need to know what to do. So there's a
absolutely.
book this big, and I had to basically be certified in that
Mhm.
before I could even consider touching a patient. I'm allowed through aromatherapy. I'm allowed, and through their own certification. I'm allowed to touch their hands. I'm allowed to touch their face. I'm allowed to touch their feet. I
Okay.
cannot touch any other part of their body
Okay.
without a nurse there and authorization from the family.
Yeah.
So, and I try not to. I
Yeah.
usually instruct
Yeah.
what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I take an intake form, just like our regular intake form. In the beginning, before they were computerized, it was one of my intake forms. They had to fill out the whole thing. That was a pain because now I had to read it all, and I had to, most of it was not typed, so it was
Mhm.
handwritten. So I had to, it was crazy trying to get it done. Then they got it computerized, and I go onto the portal and I look up all their medication because most hospice patients are on at least 40 different
Right?
medications.
Yeah.
So I look up all their medications. I see what will mix with what essential oil, what I can use, what I cannot use, if they have any allergy to certain plants, because you never know. What if they're allergic to lavender? You can't give them
Or
lavender.
even just the carrot oil, right? If you have a nut
Right.
allergy, like for
Anything,
myself, my
anything
nut
that I use.
allergy,
Right.
almond oil's out.
Right. It depends on if they have any allergies.
Yeah.
Once I get that settled, I need to know if they're on oxygen.
Mhm.
because, Essential oils have flashpoints. I
Yep.
can blow up the nursing home.
No,
So
not advisable.
not advisable. And I'm not a fly on the wall. So I have no idea where they're putting it if they're sitting on top of the oxygen tank.
Yeah.
So I need to know, that's the most important. I need
Yeah.
to know that from the nurses. They will tell me, and it's in the chart, whether or not there is oxygen. I have to get permission. Now I have open permission, but you have to get permission from the doctor that is associated with the hospice center. But
Mhm.
he loves me because I helped him. So since I
Nice.
helped him with his backaches, I don't have to show him anything more. So, but normally you do. Everything has to be passed through the doctor,
Mhm.
depending on the doctor. If he
Yeah.
finds like this one that I'm doing, that he knows that I'm not going to kill the patient, then he's fine. Because most doctors have no clue about aromatherapy anyway.
No, they don't. But once you have that trust built, right, and you've been there for 6 years, so a lot of times it's that time aspect of proving yourself over and over
Correct.
that your formulas are working, you're keeping the patient always first and foremost. Safety is the
Yes. And
priority,
there's also
and that builds
follow up.
trust. Exactly,
And
yeah.
then I go to the family. What smells does the patient like?
Mhm.
What did the patient do before they got sick? What hobbies did they have? Did they work in a garden? Where did they work?
Mhm.
What did they do? I want to know, I want the whole rounded aspect
Yeah.
of the patient so that I can figure out what to make them. Because once I have it set of what oils I could use because of all their medical problems, then I battle, well, now I got this down pat and I take notes.
Mm.
Now I have to figure out what the patient likes. The
Yeah.
patient doesn't like lavender, and even if I put a little drop of lavender, the body's going to know it and they're going to reject it
Yeah. And no
completely.
one wants to use a blend that they don't like the aroma of.
Correct. So, for instance, there's a couple of them, and I'm in the process. I'm trying to write the book on my memoirs with hospice.
Mm.
Is the first patient I had gotten? She was in the concentration camps in Germany,
Mm.
and they had to actually tie her down because she was scratching and making horrible marks in her face and
Mm.
screaming something wicked. When I went back to the family, and she was comatose, she wasn't awake at all. When I went back to the family and found out the history of what she was when she was younger, she
Yeah.
was a teacher when she got older. But I wanted to go back to see why she was screaming.
Mhm.
And when she was little, her parents had an orange farm, and she would sit under the trees, pick the oranges, and read. And she loved the smell of orange. And that put her in a happy place.
Mhm.
I said, okay, let's do sweet orange. Sweet
Right?
orange is very calming. I'm not even going to add anything but
So
sweet
it's
orange.
it's one of the safest oils. It's so calming.
Right, it's
I
so common. It's not phototoxic
Yeah.
because that's another problem. Because if
Yeah.
they put next to the window and the sun is shining in, they can
Yeah.
wind up with massive burns.
Yeah.
So I said, this is great. I'm only going to use this oil
Yeah.
because this will bring her back to the happy side. So what I
Absolutely.
do is I don't make drops. I don't make infusion of drops because if they're comatose, I don't want the nurses to put it on them because I don't know how much they're going to use.
Yeah.
I can't take that chance.
Yeah.
I can't take that chance of them pouring a whole bottle and smearing it all over their bodies. I don't want that. So I make it in a spray bottle and
Mhm.
I take vodka. Vodka is very interesting. I did a little research on vodka. Vodka can be stimulating or calming, depending on what essential oil you put in it.
Hmm.
And I
I
put,
never realized that.
yeah, it works wonderful. And what I do in the vodka to emulsify the essential oil, because the vodka is not enough, I put a couple of drops of Dr. Bromer's liquid Castile soap.
Yep.
Enough so that it'll spray out, but enough to mix the oil.
Yep.
So, and I usually do that first before I pour the vodka in. And I'll only do it if there's no oxygen because it's alcohol
Yeah.
and it's
Yes.
essential oil.
Yes.
So I don't need a boom.
No.
And what I have them do, and the caregiver who comes up and the nurse that comes up, and they have volunteers through hospice, is I tell them, and they get a sheet with instructions that goes into their chart for the nurses and goes on the wall in the room. And I have them spray it around the pillow. And also in hospice, they're always cold. So they have the blankets all the way up to their neck. So I have them spray the blanket.
Nice.
In this case, I was there when I did it because most of the time I go, and I was there and I did this spraying, and I noticed because her hands were clenched in the restraints, and within 15 minutes of her smelling this, now remember she's comatose, but the brain is still active.
Yep.
I noticed her hands opened up.
Mm.
Okay, so that was the first feeling.
Relaxing.
Smelling this orange. When she was in the concentration camps, they used her for the experiments. So she was a basket case.
Yep.
When she came out, when she was freed, she went to New York to family, and they had to put her through a terrible PST, and they put her through a psychologist because she was a mess.
Yeah.
And she went to college and became a teacher. And then she developed, from being in the gas chambers, she developed lung cancer just from being in the gas chambers. So all the screaming was when she was she put herself back in the concentration camp instead of putting herself in a happy place. She didn't want to be where she was to begin with. And I explained to the nurses to try to spray her 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, because it's a very calming oil also.
Yeah.
The second day she stopped screaming, so they were able to take off the restraints.
Nice.
The third day she was smiling. Right, about 5 days later she passed, but she passed. I mean, she was dying.
Yeah.
So she passed, but she passed comfortably.
I was going to say she wasn't in fear necessarily in her mind, and she was calm and relaxed. And to be able to pass that way versus what she was experiencing beforehand, like
Yes,
that's
it
just
was just amazing. There was
Mhm.
another woman who's young. She's in her 40s. She's got very bad ADHD, and they couldn't handle her at all. And they put her in a nursing home because she would throw massive fits, and they didn't know what to do with her. But when she was little, they would take her to the beach, and the beach was the only place that calmed her down. But when she got older, she was just totally out of it.
Mhm.
And she would bang her head, and she would bang her hands. And they said, I don't know what you're going to do for her. So, but I found out that she loved the beach. So I said, you know what? Maybe I'll make a spray that has to do with the smell of the beach.
Hmm.
So I said, I researched what could smell like beach. Spearmint.
Okay. See, and I'm thinking almost like a coconut oil lotion type something, but that's not a
No,
spray because you've got like that
she
coconut
liked the,
sunscreen you often refer to as beach. But yeah, spearmint I can
no, she
see.
liked the sand and the water.
Yeah,
And spearmint has that
I could see that.
effect.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to do spearmint and see
Hmm.
what happens. Let's try one
Yeah,
before I try another.
yeah.
And and I put spearmint and amyris.
Okay, yeah.
Amyris is a beautiful calming oil, and
Hmm.
it's a sweet smell. So the sweet with the sharpness of the spearmint mixed together, and went around having whole bunch of people smell this to see if it smelled like, if I thought it smelled like a beach. I
Yeah,
want to see if somebody else thought it smelled
yeah.
like a beach. So I had my husband smell it. I had my girlfriend smell it, and I said, "What do you think it smells like? Does it smell like the ocean?" And they said, "Yeah, it smells like the ocean."
Nice,
So that's what I made. And
nice.
for the first time, when I sprayed it on her, and I actually sprayed it on her because she was sitting in a wheelchair most of the time. So I sprayed around her shoulders. She hardly talked. She never talked. But I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her. And all of a sudden she turns to me and she says, "Beach."
Ah,
And she smiled from here to here.
oh, that
So,
just melts your
and the
heart.
nurses couldn't believe it. She had
Yeah.
calmed down. She was coherent. Of course, it didn't last that long.
No, but that's why you do it multiple times a
Multiple
day and
times a day, it really helped. Then there was one more that was really good. I went into the nursing home. He had a stroke, all right, but he was totally coherent from the neck up, and but he couldn't move the whole right side of his body, and he couldn't move his leg either. He could only move one hand, and he could eat, but he hated being there. He used to work in a quarry, and he they told me, when you go into his room, do not go close to his bed because he will hit you. So I said, "Oh God, God knows what this man is going to be like." And I looked up everything and I found out that I spoke to his brother who was in California, who never came to visit him. His parents were dead. And for his own feeling of making him feel better, the brother, he would send him peppermint patties and Hershey kisses. That's how
aw,
his way of
yeah,
making himself feel better.
yeah.
He loved peppermint patties and Hershey kisses. When they went to feed him, he would throw the food at them. And the only thing he would eat was the peppermint patties and the Hershey kisses. When I got the information from the brother that he worked in a quarry, and he was in World War II. When he got home, he found his wife in bed with another woman. So that ticked him off altogether. That got him very angry. And then in the quarry, something happened and he wound up with a massive stroke. And his brother had no choice but to put him in hospice. So I didn't know what to make. So I figured, let me have a first visit with him and see what he wants and what he could use. So I stepped back and uh and he goes, "Come closer." And I said, "Well," I said, "I'd rather talk to you from here," because I was afraid. He had the long rod stick because that's how
Mhm.
he picked everything up. I didn't want to be hit by him. But as I'm walking in, I eyed a box on the side open of the peppermint patties and the Hershey Kisses. So I said to him, "Oh, you like, this type of chocolate?" And I go, "I love peppermint patties." So he said to me, "You do?" And I go, "Yeah, I don't really eat that much because I don't like to have a lot of sugar. But when I have one, I really savor it." So now he's eyeing me to see if I'm full of it. So he says to me, "Well, I would like a Hershey Kiss, and you can take a peppermint patty. I'm not allowed to give any food without permission from the nurse."
Yeah.
So I said, "Well, let me ask the nurse if you can have it. And if you can have it, I have no problem giving it to you." So I walked down, the nurse said, "Give him whatever he wants. I'm here. We can't get him to eat. So if he'll eat it,
Yeah.
give him whatever he wants." So I took it out and I handed him through the stick the peppermint patty. I mean, the Hershey Kiss. And this is like a big
A big
Hershey
one.
Kiss. And the peppermint patty was about that big.
Oh, wow.
I open it up. He's watching me. All right. And I go, "Oh my God, this is delicious." So, and he saw on the face that I was serious.
Yeah.
So at that point, you could see the tension in him calm down. So then he asked me, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" And I said, "I know you don't want to be here. And I can make you something that will make you feel like you're not here." I told them I'm an aromatherapist and I make different scents to make people feel better. And I told him how long I was doing it and all the other people that I treated. And he said, "Okay, I like dirt." So I said, "Dirt?" He said, "Yeah, I worked in a quarry and I love the smell of dirt.
Hmm.
Make me dirt." Okay. So I said, "Okay, you got to give me a few days to figure this out and then I'll be back." So I leave and I'm going, "What the hell is dirt?" So I go out to the garden and I pick up dirt and I smell it. And I go, that smells like patchouli. So I'm wondering, dirt and patchouli have a very similar smell.
Oh, see, and I don't think so at all because I don't like patchouli though. I think
I
that's
don't
why.
like
But I
patchouli either.
love dirt, and to me, I go right to vetiver. To me, dirt,
Now,
mulch, dirt, vetiver. I could
patchouli.
roll in it.
Patchouli came to me.
Yeah.
Okay? So I said, "You know what? To cut the smell of patchouli a little bit, because I don't know if he's gonna really like patchouli. Let's see, what can I use?" So I said, "You know what? I'm gonna use tangerine because it's
Mm.
not as strong as sweet orange,
Mm.
but it might blend nice with the patchouli. But I'm
Mm.
gonna make the patchouli the prominent
Yeah.
and the so I did it as a drop by drop because I wanted to smell it
Yeah.
instead of doing it dilution wise. It was
Yeah.
more important to get the smell out of it. And sure enough, to me, it smelled like dirt. So
Nice.
I go marching down with the spray bottle, right? And I said to him, "I made you dirt." So he goes, "Get out of here." I said, "No, I'm telling you, this is dirt." So I said, "Can I put it on your hand and let you, smell it that way?" He's wearing long sleeves. So I put it on his clothing and let him smell it. "No." I said, "Okay, I'm going to put it on mine and then you can smell my hand."
Yeah.
And he smelled my hand and all of a sudden he got dead silent. And he goes, "Oh my God, you made me dirt." Well,
Oh.
there were four nurses standing out there listening to this. And I said, "Okay, can I spray you?" And he said, "Yes." you could see the tension in him just fade away. So he had me sit with him. He gave me his whole life story, everything I could possibly learn about him. He told me. I couldn't even get away because he let me sit next to him. He wanted a magazine because he couldn't use the other hand. I picked it up. I handed it to his hand, not even the stick. He
Nice.
fell in love with me. All right.
Oh,
So I
and
sprayed him once. I only sprayed him. I sprayed him here. So I said to him, it's getting dark. I don't like to drive in the dark. So I'd like to leave. And he goes, can you spray me again? I said, no, the whole room reeks from it. You got to at least allow the
let
nurses
it.
to come in here. He was in a private room. They couldn't put him in a double room. He probably would kill the person next to him. So he said, will you come back? I said, most definitely. I might not come back for a few days, but I will, because I had other patients in that
Yeah.
nursing home anyway. I walk out, 4 nurses get on the ground and kiss my feet and said, oh my God, what did you give him? We wanted. And I have to give it to them so that they could
Yeah.
spray him. And I said, this is the miracle. You spray him 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, he won't hit you. And sure enough, when I came back, one of the nurses that saw all this and was using it on him said, oh my God, you changed him. He's like a new person.
Yeah. And
He's
those are the
and he's
stories.
eating. And he's
Yeah.
eating.
Right. And it's just it, like there's and I'm sure you could go on and on. And these are the times where it's like you really see the effect of aroma can have on someone and how it is the smell, but it's also they're getting the therapeutic benefits. They're getting all the other benefits with it, that of
Right.
how powerful aromatherapy really can
Right.
be,
And with
which is
them, it's
amazing.
very hard
Yeah.
because they're so angry to
Yeah. And they
bring them out.
know. Yeah, they know they're at their end of their lives also. They know that there's not much time left and they just, to be able to relieve and give that peace is so
With those
profound.
with those that are on oxygen, I use hydrosol.
Yeah. Yeah. That would
All
be a
right.
much safer
I don't,
option.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's better than nothing.
Yeah. And
And
now I was going to say, what about like loved ones, staff? Because as you
I
said,
do
staff
them
goes
too.
through a
I
lot. They
get
go through the ringer.
the not this so much the staff. All right, the staff also with
Like if they
staff.
wanted to come to you, that would
Yeah,
be
they
like they
do.
could. But like
Right, they
the
could.
loved ones, like
They
it's
get an
hard.
inhaler,
Nice. Yeah. I
and
got my inhaler here.
because they feed off each other.
Yeah.
So if the loved one is off the wall, then the person that's so sick becomes even more agitated. So
Absolutely. They pick
if
up on
I
that.
do it for them, and I have to go through the same thing, I
Yep.
have to get an intake form from them.
Absolutely.
I need everything from them, even though that some of them are healthy, some of them are not. I need the goods and the bads, no matter what,
Absolutely.
and I give them an inhaler. So,
Perfect.
because there are a lot that can draw, and there's a lot when they're about to die, they don't let go because they're so afraid that what is going to happen to the family member that they won't let go.
Yeah.
And if I treat the family member and now the family member is nice and calm,
Relaxed.
then they'll let go.
Yep. Yep.
Then
And you hear that often of people passing when no one's around for that reason of, everyone has said their goodbyes, but they're just waiting so that the person doesn't have to
well, I
necessarily
do
live through
something
it.
else also. I make a transitioning row, and
Nice.
I make it generic for male and female.
Hmm.
And the nurses carry it in a 3 ml bottle with a patch,
Yep.
with an aromatherapy patch, and they know when the patient is about to die,
Yep. To go.
and
Yep.
they put it on right here. I have them put it on right here so that they can smell it,
Yeah.
and it allows them to let go, especially with those crazy family members that are feeding on them and they don't want to let go.
Yeah.
This allows them to let go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nice.
So every nurse carries it, and I make extra that goes into their refrigerator so it stays better. And they have I send them about 100 patches, probably about a month. Every month I send them patches.
Wow.
And when they know they're going to die, they put it on them.
That's really, really nice. So that again, right, they have that ability to pass with something
Nicely.
that support,
Calmly.
that
Yeah,
support, that calming.
I picked oils that are calming. I like amyris. It's a very nice calming oil. I use rose because rose is calming. I use what's called petitgrain
Yep.
neroli. It's an enfleurage where
Yep.
they do the petals and the leaves and they distill them together. It's much cheaper than neroli because neroli is a fortune,
Yeah.
and I mix them all together. Sometimes if I don't use rose, I use
Yep.
rose geranium, and I will mix that together. And then, as I said, it's the pure oil, no carrier oil to it, because
Yeah.
it goes on the patch.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to put carrier oil in it. And I just tell the nurses not more than one or two because
Yeah.
it's strong.
Yeah, you don't
And
need more than that, and especially if
oh,
it's up on like, by their collarbone,
right, because
like,
it's a
it's great
patch and it
there.
absorbs.
Exactly, yeah.
And I tell them if you get it on your skin, to make sure you wash your hands immediately
Yeah,
with some water. Don't
absolutely.
wait till you go out, and then because it will burn.
Yeah.
So, and it works well. It really
Nice,
does.
nice.
And then there's
Um,
the other part of what is used for hospice, not just spray, but they have bed sores.
mhm,
And there I do not use essential oils
mhm.
at all. I use the boswellic acid powder.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I knew you used the powder, the benzoylic acid powder a lot for different aspects, and I was just gonna ask, what do you often use that for? And so
I
any
use,
physical sores type thing would be
yes,
when you would use that?
physical. It's a
Yep, there
Let's
I see it.
see.
Nice.
It's a cream. I have a simple basic lotion cream, and I mix 35% BA in boswellic acid into the cream because that's more gentle than the 70%.
Mhm.
And it's applied to the bed sores,
Yeah,
and it really helps. It,
yeah.
it makes a major difference. I had a client who had, what I did is I didn't even put it in here. I used it with tamino oil and I mixed it in that. And he had under his arm, he had a bacterial infection and it was oozing. And it was all inside his body and he was dying.
Mhm.
But he was in so much pain, he could not raise his hand up at all.
Mhm.
And using tomato oil, because it's got its own properties, inflammation, anti-inflammation properties,
Yeah, it's very
and
nice for
it's
that.
used a lot for those that have uh, what's the disease? Not chickenpox, the other one. It's shingles.
Yes.
And it does bring down the inflammation of shingles, the tamino oil. So I figured, let's put the BA in it and see what happens. And I mixed it up. The nurses applied, and it brought down all the inflammation and the redness.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it had poisoned inside his body, but
Yeah.
at least he was comfortable before
Yeah.
he.
Yeah.
As I said, it's great for bed sores. I also use it for in the lotion for their hands are very, very dry and scaly.
Yeah.
because
Well, the air in those places it's all recycled air. It's all
right,
pumped. So like
right.
the air
And,
is not
well,
the
and
best. It's very
sometimes
drying.
they have pain in their hands.
Yeah.
So we'll massage it on their hands. I will massage it on their feet. And if I'm allowed, I'll massage it on their legs. Otherwise, the nurse will do it.
Yeah.
And we've gotten great results,
Awesome.
unbelievable results.
Amazing. And I just want to clarify for everyone listening, this is not the essential oil. This is
No,
an actual powder,
this is a powder that,
reminding people that there's bisphenic acid isn't actually in the essential oil. This is actually in
not
the powder itself,
right.
just so that all listeners are very, very crystal clear on
Right.
this.
What it is I'll explain what it is. It is when the oil is when the resin is distilled. It's distilled for the essential oil and the hydrosol.
Mhm.
What lays behind is this gook, and this gook that from the resin has what's called boswellic acid extract in it, and
Mhm.
it's considered, the chemical name for it is AKBA,
Mm.
and it's too heavy a molecule to go into the distillation, into the essential oil and into the hydrosol. It stays behind. And this particular gook, when it hits the air, it becomes a hard block. And what they do is they dry it. And once they completely dry it, they powder it down. So it looks like, I'm going to give you a bigger version of it. It looks like this.
So yeah, so anyone on our YouTube can actually see it. So yeah, it's just
It
beautiful
looks like
powder.
this.
Yeah.
It's just like baby powder. That's the consistency that it
Interesting.
is. And then they found that you could get more boswellic acid out of it. So
Mhm.
we use an
Interesting.
organic ethanol solvent to pull more of the boswellic acid out. And we
Nice.
can pull around between 70 and 75% boswellic acid out of it.
Wow. That's great.
And that higher percentage is excellent. This has been used, the AKBA has been researched, and studies have been used on certain skin cancers and internally for certain other cancers through vitro. And
Mhm.
nobody's really tested it through internally except for me. But the 70% works, and so does a 35, but the 35 is just milder,
Yeah.
and the 70% will work on eczema, dermatitis, uh, psoriasis, works on fibromyalgia,
So a
pain,
lot of pain, a lot of
pain,
skin
muscle,
conditions.
muscle
Nice.
pain. We found out it works on colitis. We have those that are using it for colitis. They're taking the capsules that I sell internally.
Yeah.
And we found it works for sinus, including,
Nice.
I had a client, actually the aromatherapist, and she goes, my sinuses are killing me. I tried every essential oil you can think of, and it's not helping. So I said, you know what? You have the powder. I said, you have the 70%, right? She goes, yeah. I said, do me a favor. You have it in carrier oil? She said, yeah. You don't need to strain the 70%. I said, take 2 Q-tips and shove them up your nose. Put them as high as you could get without getting into
Hurting.
the brain, without hurting. Leave it in there for 5 minutes, then take it out. Do it 3 times a day.
Mm.
Worst that'll happen is nothing.
Yeah.
Hell, all of a sudden the floodgates opened. And she started blowing her nose like there was no tomorrow. And she said, you know, the pounding in my head stopped.
Yep.
And she
Oh,
got rid of the infection
nice. Yeah.
because it's also antibacterial and it's antimicrobial.
Yeah.
Works on the
Microbial.
autoimmune system. So it was wonderful. So
That's amazing.
it gets rid of scars. It helps with dark spots. I'm going to physical therapy for my legs, so I gave it to my physical therapist because she's got eczema. So I said, "Try this. Tell me if it works." And it's clearing up her eczema.
Yeah. So it
So,
really sounds like, the sprays are amazing for that emotional support, that um not just mental health, but like really that emotional aspect of relaxing and
well, you
bringing
can't use
peace.
inhalers on them because most of them
Well,
can't use it themselves.
yeah,
And you
exactly.
can't shove it in their nose and say, breathe,
No.
inhale. You know
No.
what I mean? Some of them are comatose.
Yeah,
So you can't get them to inhale.
exactly.
So, but if you spray it in the air or you spray it around them,
They
they're
get
bound to
those.
get it in somehow.
Absolutely. So it sounds like, that the spray is amazing for that versus using this is really great for that physical aspect um, of anything that comes up while in hospice care, of just, again, soothing the skin, soothing sores, soothing, because, you can have that emotional imbalance before passing, but the physical, you want to be relaxed also. You don't want to be in immense pain
Right.
24/7 before passing. And so being able to alleviate some of that pain
Oh,
would
you know
absolutely be
what? They
nice.
when they're in extreme pain, they give them morphine.
Yeah,
But morphine has a lot of side effects.
sure does.
So it makes them very nauseous.
Yeah.
It makes them very hyper. It might be helping with the pain, but what about everything else
Disoriented.
that it does?
Yeah, no.
So I try to work on those aspects because I know they're not in any pain. Because if they're on morphine, they're not in any pain. I
Yeah,
had morphine when I was in the hospital, and it was like taking CBD. You're in no pain.
yeah.
But
But a lot of side effects, like you said, people are nauseous, people are just disoriented,
right,
and they don't feel like themselves necessarily
correct.
either.
And
So,
this way, that's what doctors feel, that
mhm,
morphine helps those that are about to pass.
yep.
They all use it. It's not, and I think it's used all in the United States. I don't know if it's used in any other countries
I'm
that,
not sure in Canada to what extent they use. I'm sure it is used. I don't have a doubt about it, but
but
as to
that's
what
the only
extent, I'm
one
not
they
sure.
know of that makes
Yeah,
them dopey enough so that they have no pain.
yeah.
So, but just being dopey doesn't mean you're getting rid of the anxiety.
No, exactly, right? There's still
So,
all the other things that go along with it.
so
Um,
that's where aromatherapy plays in. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just recognizing the time. Um anything else you want to share? I know you have I think
my
you have you
book.
I was going to say, yeah, your book.
My book. This book is for everyone, whether you are a beginner or whether you are an advanced aromatherapist, because most aromatherapists have no clue about the resin.
No.
We don't learn about resin. We learn essential oil. And even essential oil, we don't know that there are at least 18 different species of essential oil that can be used and what each species does, because each
Yeah.
one does something different.
Yep.
The book gives you a step by step.
Nice. Yeah, it'll go a little blurry just because with the background, but
Yeah, with pictures.
yeah,
You know, they're blurred. Oh,
you can
ooh,
see a little bit.
a little bit with pictures because resin is colored. So you need, black and white doesn't cut it. And in the back, I give you recipes.
Nice.
So because some resin is edible.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I see I know you often share on your own personal Facebook different things that
that I
you
make
make
with
with the resin and desserts and a few
yes.
drinks and things. And I'm always like,
Oh, it's
ooh, they
wonderful.
always look delicious.
They are. They are. So you get uh in towards the back. but you get every frankincense resin that's popularly used.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
I explain each one. I give you the Latin. I give you the constitutes of it. I give you everything, how to use it, which is the most important,
Yeah.
where it comes from, what country it comes from. And in the back are all the pictures and, of course, my references. But
Awesome.
when I came out with the book, I had come out with more recipes. So I asked people, what do you want? You want another book? Or do you want an ebook? Or do you want a PDF? They all said PDF. And I said, why? And they said, because we could print out the PDF.
Hmm.
And whatever recipes we want, we can print them out, make our own little book.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have what's called a companion. And it's called a companion PDF. It's digital. It's on my website. And all it is recipes. There's about
Nice.
120 recipes in
Oh,
there.
wow. I didn't realize there was that many.
The combination of the book and plus, because
Nice.
I came out with plus. My famous Fariana cookies are
Yes.
not in the book because I made them after I made the book. So everybody said, well, that's not fair. Put a link or in the book when you send it.
Yeah.
I said, get the companion. It's not expensive. And either is
There
the
you go.
book. I
Yeah.
wanted it to be not expensive so that you could buy it. It's $24.99, $24.99 on
Yeah.
my website. If you don't live in the United States, on my website where the book is, further down is a link to my publisher who ships all over the world.
Yeah.
And they do have a publishing house in Canada.
Mhm.
So not only will the book be the dominant, whatever you do with dollars, but it will also, your shipping will be less because
Yeah.
it's going from Canada to Canada, not the United States to Canada.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
right
Which
now,
always makes a huge difference with Canada and US
normally, and
shipping.
now it's
It's
even
atrocious.
worse.
It is. It
Now
is.
it's
We
even
won't
worse.
even get into that.
We
That's a
won't even
whole
get
other
into that.
can of
Right.
worms.
Right. But this way you can get the book. The
Yeah.
only thing I can't do is sign it. If you're in
Yeah.
the United States, I can sign it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't sign it. But
Yeah.
it's very informative. I have
Yeah.
people that look in the book constantly. If they're not sure, they'll go back
Yeah.
and look it up. The companion, you can't copy it because it is copywritten. I copyright the companion,
Yeah.
and it has an ISDN number to it also. And but you can print it.
Perfect.
It's locked,
Awesome.
so you can't copy it.
Yeah.
But you can print. I made it printable. And
Awesome.
those that are not in the United States that cannot get the book at all, they can't in their country, like in Somalia and Somaliland, they won't ship there.
Yeah.
I make it downloadable. You
Okay.
can print it, you can't copy it, but you can read it
Yeah.
on a computer or
Perfect.
on a iPad or
Tablet, anything like that. Yeah.
anything that
Which is
does
perfect.
PDF.
Yep.
So I made it
Perfect.
for those that can't get it, because in Africa they can't get it at all.
Yeah, there's quite a few different countries that it's just hard to ship things to them honestly.
Even China,
So,
they can't get it in China. They don't ship to China.
yeah,
So, but they could get it off my website because it's downloadable.
perfect. Yeah.
So they have to pay USD. So
Yeah.
as long as
That's
they can
okay.
pay PayPal, they can get it.
Yeah.
But
Amazing.
because PayPal is international, so
Yeah.
I don't. I think PayPal also does China because somebody in China bought it from me.
Yeah, yeah, you can as long as you have an account, then you can use that for anything.
Right.
Um, Before we chime off, any last comments that you would like to share with our guests?
If you're going to go into hospice, you must be certified.
Mhm.
You must, because you have to learn how to use these oils correctly. If you're not certified, forget it. Most of and I know in Canada it's the same way, because some people told me that if you're not certified, then they have a major liability.
Mhm.
Because I have liability insurance, I have product insurance.
Yeah.
So if you're not certified and you make something that's going to hurt that person, they're going to sue you. They're going to also sue the hospice center, but they will also sue you.
Yeah.
So and even if it's not suing, you need to know what you're doing.
Well, I was gonna say safety aspect of it. Your insurance aside, liability insurance, you should always have that. If you're as soon as you're certified, you're making blends, you need to have liability insurance. And if you're making any kind of product to sell, lines, anything like that, your product insurance on top of that, absolutely. But hospice care, like you said, there's so many different medications, so many things to take into account, so many health
Right.
concerns
If you're
that
not an aromatherapist, you won't know that.
exactly. It's, and we say it all the time that essential oils are powerful. It's plant medicine. You can't just use it willy-nilly with people.
And they're
And
so highly that's what people don't understand. They're
yeah,
so highly concentrated.
absolutely.
One little drop can destroy you. I mean,
Yeah,
if I put one drop of Plea on my skin, one drop, I break out a massive rash all over my body.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
one drop.
Yeah, exactly.
So
They're so powerful and people don't realize that. So I think that is amazing advice and absolutely something that should be followed. Working with different populations, hospice, one of those, it is super important to have that qualification behind it.
yes.
And now if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to follow you, get your book, the boswellic acid powder, if they want to start, learn where they can get that, how can people find you?
Robinsresinsplus.com.
Awesome. Yeah. And we have that in the show notes too. We've got your
Right. Now
website.
that's where the thing is. The Everything's there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast
Thank you.
today. We have, I know myself, I've had family members in hospice care. A lot of people know someone who has been in hospice care. And it's, having another tool in the toolbox to help with the person themselves, the loved ones, is always absolutely needed. So thank you so much for coming on today. And again, if you want to learn more about the frankincense, you can go back and listen to episode 16 where we had Robin on all about frankincense. Otherwise, thank you to all of our listeners and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Essentria also has its own course regarding dementia and aromatherapy. Now, it is not hospice care, but it is very, very similar in a lot of the approaches that we can take using aromatherapy with dementia or hospice or palliative care. Very similar in a lot of the practice. So if you want to learn more about how to use essential oils with dementia, hospice, palliative care, feel free to go to our website, www.schoolofessentria.com, and go to our mini courses, and you will see the course there regarding dementia and aromatherapy. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you for spending your time with us here at Vetiver Vibes. This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. Don't forget to check out some of our free resources at www.schoolofessentria.com.
If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think would enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, you can go on over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of your review and we will send you a free guided meditation as our way to say thank you.
This podcast is for information purposes only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medication concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply directly to you.